matter. And, of course, it works the same way for consciousness. So we need to pay attention, and we need to preserve these old ways. And that's what I'm trying to do with this Full Circle project. I want people to become aware of it, and I want to show them a way back and a way of reining this system in. I mean, we can't let this system go on the way it's going. You know, the ship of state is heading for the rocks. It's heading for the waterfall, and it doesn't look like anybody's at the helm. So we've got to rein this in, and that's another thing. People are always wanting to just collapse this system, but really we've got to rein it in. We've got to bring it back under control, and we've got to reverse the sequence that's brought us to this point. You know, that's the way I believe it's got to be done anyway.
You know, Max, I listened to your podcast last night before I went to sleep, and then even after I went to sleep, my iPod just kept going on repeat. So it was good to get freshed up with some of your recent topics. One of the things that you were discussing is the artificial geometry that is all around us and how it affects us on a conscious level, perhaps subconscious level. And, I've thought for years about how out of balance we might be just from the fact that we live in square homes. And right now I'm living in a circular home, a yurt. And even though that's also artificial and nature is based on spirals, a circle is definitely much more natural than a square. And I can tell you, Max, I have felt the difference.
Oh, you do? Yeah, square walls and flat surfaces and all this stuff. See, I believe that there was an event that took place, and this is something that I saw while I was away, but I can hear the break music, so we'll talk about that after the break, eh?
And we'll come back, and I want to let people know that you're welcome to join the conversation tonight at 218-339-8525. Max Igan is our guest. Back in a few. Well, how early were you when you started to, question your reality, look into what we call the matrix? Was there a critical point in your time where everything shifted for you all at once, or was it something that was incremental over time?
When I was 4 and I asked my parents why we had to buy land, things shifted for me. I was always walking around before then thinking this was just kind of weird. I felt like I'd been born into the wrong reality. It didn't seem to be, this was the way things were supposed to be, And when I was 4, my parents told me that we had to buy land. I just couldn't figure that out. I couldn't figure out how you could actually own land, how you could lay claim to part of the planet. And I started researching into the pyramids and stuff when I was 8, so I never really fitted into it at all. I was questioning reality right from when I was a kid. But, I just kind of forgot about it for a while. It just was all messed up. I got to school, I got kicked out of 4 schools, and I just thought this is all messed up, so I just started working as a musician, basically to escape reality. And I was always interested in ancient history and, the fact that there were cover-ups and why would they be hiding all this stuff from us. And as things started getting more serious and you start seeing the world become more and more locked down, it all one thing leads to another. And eventually you sort of start to see the whole picture and it becomes quite serious after a while. And then when September the 11th happened, I thought, well, hang on. Trying to put the guitar down and actually start speaking out to people about all this because it's important. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at even the lyrics of certain rock groups from the 1980s that aren't necessarily the most vocal when it comes to politics, but there's a lot of messages embedded within their lyrics. I was listening to Wasted Years by Iron Maiden the other day, and I never really noticed one particular part of the song, the lyrics, but it stood out to me. And it was basically, I don't remember the exact lyrics, but, this isn't about looking back in the past, Solo's wasted years. It's about realizing that we are in the golden years, and this is the time to make our stand. And, there's just so much beautiful poetry and information about this matrix we live in that we often find in music. Another example is Pink Floyd's The Wall, both the movie and the analysis of the lyrics. And I remember buying a book called Which One's Pink, which is authored by Roger Waters and someone else. And it's a song-by-song psychoanalysis of the deeper message that he was attempting to send to his audience.
Oh, look, fantastic stuff. I mean, Roger Waters is a very, very intelligent man, and he's always been trying to send this message to the world to just wake up. I think one of the greatest albums ever released is a Roger Waters album called Amused to Death. Absolutely fantastic album. If you haven't heard that one, Alex, I recommend that you go and have a listen to that album. It'll change your life. It's a very, very, it's a critical examination of the human condition, and it's very, very good. And the subtext, the subtext and the underlying message of the album is absolutely fantastic. So look at that one. Yeah, but he's a very intelligent man, and it's always been there in the music. They're trying to tell us to wake up, and I think this is one of the most important times in human history. I really do. I think this is the first time we've had the tools that we need to make change, and this is the first time we've really been, almost spiritually evolved enough to be able to deal with it and do it properly,
Absolutely. There's also another band I'll mention that's out of Europe. It's called Ladytron, and they have a lot of also interesting messages about our reality. So, Max, I kind of want to talk to you about the pros and cons of what we call where we're at in the so-called movement. There's a lot of things that you brought up in your recent podcast that I've been saying almost word for word the exact same thing, but in a different way. And a big problem that I see is this illusion of separation, the competitive nature, competitive drive, that sometimes pits alternative media hosts against each other instead of working on a collaborative basis, a collective, if you will. And one of the things that's always troubled me as someone that's been in the alternative media since 2004 is the fact, and I actually did change my location, Max, and went to Dallas to help someone start their own alternative media network, which was supposed to be about a network where people can watch a variety of different hosts, people like Vinny Eastwood, people like myself, people like, some of Anthony Hilder's video, The Corbett Report, and some other shows that currently air on Access Television. Unfortunately, that project was truly based around how can he, the guy that set it up, that was organizing it, get as many Federal Reserve notes in his pocket as possible. And his business plan was not exactly what I would call the most legit. I've always felt, and I was kind of ranting about this the last segment of last show, that has been our biggest downfall as a so-called movement, our inability at times to come together and work together and bring our resources together, our minds together. I can see people that have interests in art work together. I can see people that have interests in yoga or dance or other forms of human expression work together. And I can't help but feel that it's very important to me to bring this issue onto the air, that we have to look at, we've come all this far and we're working to expand consciously and become better people. But it seems like there's a lot of road work that we still have to pave, that we still have to create to get to that place to where we are a collective force, a peaceful force to be reckoned with.
Well, look, there is, and unfortunately a lot of people, their egos get in the way, and you get into a position where you've created yourself online and you end up with a revenue stream and you kind of get a little bit attached to that revenue stream, so then you've got a vested interest in maintaining the fight. And that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people, we're running programs, Alex. Everybody's programmed to think in certain ways and to react in certain ways. And a lot of people are running the program of the fight. A lot of people have been speaking out against this ruling elite and this Illuminati and this horrible corporate system for many years. And it's all they know. They've gotten very good at it. They've gotten very knowledgeable about it. But it's all they know. And they can't imagine a life without the struggle against the system. It's about the struggle. It's about the fight. It's not about winning. It's not about what we would do if we changed things. And it's about the fight. And my opinion is more valid than your opinion. I've got my view, and this is the way it works. And anybody who disagrees with me must be Illuminati or working for the other side, And this is what's going on. And when people, you'll find that you have a difference of opinion with someone, they'll start making up hate videos about you and saying that you're a shill, you're this and you're that. I get it all the time because I have a difference of opinion with them. Then they'll open other accounts and they'll come and they'll start arguments with you on thread, and they'll wait until you lose it and you say something, like just go away. You'll say something rude to them because they push you so far. They go, oh, look, got him. Look what he said. He said something rude. See, he's not perfect. Oh my God, he's human. They do this. They do this to try to trap you and pull you away from what it's all about. So you've got to wonder where these people come from, whether they're plants or whatever. But a lot of the time as well, you've got people in the truth movement and they're attacking this big ghost, this big machine that they can't really get to. They go online, they air their frustration, which is simply a way of thinking that I'm undermining this big beast, but I'm not seeing any change. The world isn't changing, so they get frustrated. So then they find someone they disagree with, They attack them because they get a response, they get a result. It gives them the energy that they need because they're, expending all this energy in fighting the system, and they're not getting anything back. They need a result. They need energy from the fight in order to continue the fight. They don't get that from the system, so they attack alternate research workers. And if we could just unite, the whole thing would go away. If you can't fight it, it's a cloud. It's just an idea. It only exists on paper. We made the whole thing up. The all-powerful Illuminati is only as powerful as we believe it is. That's why they put signs everywhere. All you got to do is have a few people who control the movie industry and the music industry, and you can put Illuminati signage and stuff everywhere. You put it in corporate logos, put it all over the place so it looks all-powerful, so people perceive that it controls every aspect of their lives. It's all-powerful, and there's nothing you can do about it. But it's only as powerful as we believe it to be. I think that if it was that powerful, they wouldn't have to put the stuff everywhere to tell us how powerful they are and make sure the program sticks, because that's what they do. But whatever they try to do, every time they've tried to lock us down, which they've been trying to do for 2,000 years, every time they paint us into a corner, we just cut a doorway. We always do. Human consciousness creates things. We're incredibly resilient, and we keep finding new ways out. You just can't keep us down no matter how much they're trying. They just can't. And all they're really doing is waking more and more people up the more they try to keep us down. But, we will figure this out eventually, I hope. But there's a lot of division in the truth community because everyone's got a different perspective, and everyone, too many people want to be the guru. They want to be the one that everybody looks up to. I'm the man in shining robes who saved the world. They all want to be this way, and it's not the way to think. I mean, I just present my perspective to people. Do I always get it right? Probably not. But I do my best to just bring my perspective to the world and to say, well, I see a really simple problem and I see a really simple solution. But the first step of the simple solution is for all of you people out there to understand the power that you've got. You've got to realize who you are. There's no one any better or any worse than you on this planet. We're all here equal under our Creator. Right. And everything below us is fiction. We made it all up, so they've just got to figure that out, Alex.
That's a very important point, Max, because, we all, I guess, respond differently to the information, to the awakening that we're having, that something is wrong with this country, with this planet. But some people react with fear, and then some people go, well, if this is going on, there must be some sort of divine presence in all of this. Perhaps it's happening for a reason. Perhaps these things are happening for us, not to us, in order for us to evolve on a soul level. And Max, one of the greatest things that's frustrated me for some reason recently, especially around this 2012 period, is that there's two major polarities that I feel, perspectives that are out of balance with reality. One road, one perspective, one paradigm is this idea of a shift in consciousness that happens, not that it's not going to happen, but a global one where everyone wakes up. And there's also where space gods, Pleiadians, rescue us from the Earth changes. This has been a very popular belief since the 1970s, 1980s, from some aspects of the mainstream New Age community. So it deals with being saved by an external force. The other road, the other paradigm, the other false view is the view that we hear from certain individuals that are very popular in the so-called truth movement, the view that says that we are going to die, that 80% of the world's population will be reduced, and there's nothing that we can do about it to save our own lives. And what this does is send people into a very dark state of paralysis. And so I'm just curious about your thoughts on this, Max, because the way that I'm interpreting this is that we go through cycles, and a lot of these cycles are driven by the sun, and the sun and its activity is affected by other celestial changes in our universe. What happens up there affects us down here. So I see dips and waves where sometimes the energy is intense, sometimes it's less intense, but I do see physical reality continuing and an expansion of consciousness. I just don't see total death or annihilation, nor an external savior coming to put us on the spacecrafts as they do their remodeling on Earth.
No, look, I don't see anything like that. I think that the 2012 date was significant. I think it did change the energy. But I think we have to participate in the changes that are coming. And one of the most important